If you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice. That's what SHE said to me. In front of everyone. Laughing. Like it was a joke. So I did exactly that. I disappeared. And what happened next will shock you. For years I lived being invisible. You know that person who's always there, but no one really sees? That was me. Always available when they needed something. Always quiet when they hurt me with sharp words. Always small to fit in the miserable space they decided I deserved. Always smiling to not create problems. Always swallowing tears to not be called dramatic. I thought this was love. I thought this was family. I thought if I was perfect enough, one day they would see me. Love me. Respect me. I was completely wrong. And the most sinister truth? They knew exactly what they were doing. Every cruel joke disguised as teasing. Every silence when I tried to speak. Every time they ignored me at the table like I was a ghost. Every look of contempt. Every irritated sigh when I dared to exist. It was intentional. It was calculated. It was a twisted psychological game where I would always lose, because the rules changed every time I was close to winning. They turned me into a shadow. And the worst part? I let them. It was a barbecue. Sunny Sunday. Happy family gathered. The kind of scene that looks perfect on Instagram, but is rotten inside. I was there, as always. Serving drinks. Arranging plates. Smiling forcefully. Being the convenient ghost that made everything work without ever getting credit. Hours passed. Inside jokes I didn't understand. Conversations that stopped when I got close. The subtle but brutal isolation of someone who was never really accepted. And then, it happened. She, his sister, the golden princess of the family, was telling a story. Something about how people are easily replaceable at her job. Everyone laughed. Everyone agreed. Then she looked directly at me. In front of everyone. With that venomous smile I knew well. And dropped the sentence that would change everything. You know, if you disappeared tomorrow, no one would even notice. You're like old furniture. Always there, taking up space, but no one really sees. No one would miss you. And you know what was worse than the words? The silence that came after. For 2 eternal seconds, no one said anything. No one defended me. No one said, hey, that was cruel. And then everyone laughed. Including him. The man who said he loved me. The man who slept in my bed every night. He laughed at my pain like it was the funniest thing in the world. In that moment, something died inside me. The part that still had hope. The part that still believed they could change. The part that kept me small, waiting to be loved. But something much more powerful and dangerous was born in its place. The thirst for cold revenge. I smiled. The most fake smile of my life. I pretended it was a joke. I pretended it didn't hurt. I even gave a forced little laugh, like they expected. But inside I was already planning their destruction. You want to see what happens when I disappear? You're going to find out the worst possible way. It wasn't impulsive. It wasn't emotional. It was coldly calculated. For 2 weeks, I became an observer. I wrote down everything. I studied every pattern, every dependency, every moment they needed my invisibility to function. I discovered frightening things. I was the one who organized all the family gatherings. I was the one who remembered all the birthdays and important dates. I was the one who mediated all the conflicts between them. I was the one who kept the house running while he relaxed. I was the emotional punching bag when they needed to vent frustrations. They didn't see me because I was the invisible structure that kept their lives organized. And invisible structures, when they disappear, make everything collapse. That's when I realized this wouldn't just be an exit. It would be a demolition. And I was going to savor every second. The execution was a work of art. It wasn't just leaving home. It was leaving their existence completely. First, I planned everything down to the smallest details. I transferred my bank account to another bank in another city. I canceled all services that were in my name, and guess what? There were many. I organized the move for a day when he was traveling. I left only the essentials, furniture, problems, and the mess they would have to solve alone. Then, on an ordinary Tuesday, while he was at work, I evaporated. I moved to a city 300 kilometers away. I blocked all contacts, phone, social media, email. I changed my number and created new accounts for everything. I didn't leave a forwarding address. I only told my boss I was requesting a transfer for personal reasons. Zero traces. Zero explanations. Zero closure. The only thing I left was a note on the refrigerator. You said no one would notice if I disappeared. Let's test that theory. Don't look for me. I won't respond. Consider this a favor, now you can pretend I never existed. They wanted me to be invisible? Done. Now I was a real ghost. But here comes the insane and satisfying part. The first 48 hours were exactly as she said, total silence. No one called me. No one texted. No one seemed to notice. For a moment, I thought, maybe she was right. Maybe I really am insignificant. But on the third day, the absolute chaos began. And it was beautiful to watch from afar. You know what I discovered? When you really disappear, your absence speaks louder than your presence ever did. Through a mutual friend who didn't know where I was, I followed the destruction in real time. Day 3, he came home and found the note. First, he was confused. Then irritated. She'll come back. It's just drama. Day 5, the first bill arrived in his name. He discovered that I paid for internet, cable TV, electricity. Everything was in my name because I took care of those boring things. Day 7, his mother called asking why I hadn't called on her birthday. He had to explain that I had taken a break. The lying began. Day 10, the phone calls started. Where are you? This is ridiculous. Everyone is worried. Come back and we'll talk. Blatant lies. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about the void I left and how it was destroying their lives. Day 15, the bomb exploded. The family discovered that. I organized all the parties, mother-in-law's birthday coming up. No one knew what to do. I remembered all the appointments. He missed 3 important consultations. I kept peace between everyone. His brothers fought badly without me to mediate. I was the one who made the house function. He burned 3 pans trying to cook. Day 20, the princess who made the joke, started hunting me on social media. She discovered I had disappeared from everything. She panicked. Day 30, he was having anxiety attacks. Couldn't sleep. The house was chaos. The family was demanding explanations he couldn't give. The truth finally hit. I was never invisible. They chose not to see. I was the invisible pillar that supported the entire rotten structure of that family. And when a pillar disappears, everything collapses. While their world crumbled in glorious flames, mine was being rebuilt from scratch. And for the first time in my life, I was the architect. For the first time in years, I woke up without that knot in my stomach. Without fear of saying the wrong thing. Without having to walk on tiptoes to not bother anyone. I discovered who I was when no one was diminishing me. And you know what I discovered? I was absolutely incredible. Not the miniaturized version they knew. Not the convenient shadow that made everything work backstage. The real version. Complete. Powerful. I started doing things I had forgotten I loved, sleeping in on weekends without feeling guilty. Eating what I wanted, when I wanted. Watching movies he hated. Decorating my house with colors he only liked white and gray. Taking dance classes he always said I danced badly. Wearing clothes that made me feel beautiful, not what he approved. For the first time in years, I took up space without apologizing. I spoke my opinion without fear of creating conflict. I said no without giving endless explanations. I was no longer invisible. I was radiant. But the most incredible part, I discovered I had talents I never could explore because I was too busy serving other people. I started writing, painting, photographing, laughing loudly, dreaming big. And for the first time in my adult life, I was happy. Completely, genuinely, absurdly happy. Without needing anyone's approval. 6 months later, the friend who kept me informed told me everything. And man, it was better than any revenge movie. The family had entered total collapse. He was a wreck, lost 18 pounds because he didn't know how to cook. The house became a garbage dump. He had to hire a cleaning lady who cost 3 times more than I cost. He was in therapy, ironic, right? Friends started avoiding him because he only talked about how I was crazy for disappearing. The family was at war, no one wanted to organize the gatherings anymore. They forgot the family matriarch's birthday scandal. The brothers fought badly without me to mediate. The mother-in-law defended me for the first time, said they treated me badly. And She, the little princess who made the cruel joke, was obsessed with finding me. She created fake profiles. Asked friends to look for me. Even hired a private detective. Yes, she did that. Because they finally understood the most brutal truth, I was never invisible. I was the only thing they really saw. They just pretended not to see me because it was convenient. Because if they admitted how much they depended on me, they would have to treat me better. But when someone you treat like furniture simply evaporates, you realize it wasn't furniture. It was the foundation of everything. And foundations, when they disappear, make entire buildings collapse. If you've made it this far and you're identifying with this story, if you're also treated as invisible by people who should value you, if someone has ever said no one would notice if you disappeared, if you're tired of being the invisible pillar that supports everyone's life, I have a revolutionary message for you: disappear. But don't disappear with anger. Don't disappear crying. Don't disappear begging please to be seen. Disappear with power. Because sometimes, the only way to be seen is to completely disappear and let them discover the void your absence creates. Sometimes, you need to break the game for them to understand that you were the one making the rules work. Sometimes, your absence is the most powerful presence you can have in someone's life. And when you leave, if you leave, do it for your reasons, not for revenge, although it's tasty. Not for anger, although it's valid. But for self-love. Because you discovered your worth much more than the miserable space they offered you. And when you return, if you return, it will be as the protagonist of your own story. not as an extra in the lives of people who don't know your worth. You won't beg to be seen anymore. You'll shine so bright they won't be able to ignore you. And if they still ignore you, their problem. You already know who you are. They said no one would notice if I disappeared. They were wrong. Everyone noticed. The difference? Now I don't care anymore. And if you're thinking about disappearing too, do it. Disappear. But disappear smiling.